So hello everyone, we're going to be talking about being a multidimensional healer. I'm sure lots of you have heard terms like 5D and New Earth, and even for me it was kind of like, what does that mean in real terms? What is that like for my everyday? How is that going to show up? So I spent a lot of time asking these questions, and often on my own, and then I found some amazing ladies who could actually answer the questions with me. So today we're going to be sharing our ideas and our thoughts, and over the next few weeks, every Monday, we'll be meeting. So if you think this sounds interesting to you, then hang around. We're going to be on for 30 minutes. We're just setting up all the links at the moment. So when Alicia gives me the nod, we'll get started.
I think we are. I think I see it all. As far as I can see, it's on Krystalline Ascension and it's in our group.
Excellent. That was rather quick and easy. So we've got some people live with us here at Zoom. And we can answer some questions here, but obviously be aware that we have a 20-second lag with Facebook. So if you see us looking down, it's because we'll be looking to see if there's any comments coming through there. But if everything's working okay, let me get it up on my side, then we can start. So have we got people online watching at the moment, or do we need to wait a few minutes?
Okay, live 2 that's on Krystalline Ascension. So I'm not too sure how all of this works. If it links back to everything that's on yours.
Yeah, I can see that we're live. So we've got 2 people watching already. So hello to this to those 2 people. I'm not sure if it's going to show me who they are, but we'll find out in a moment.
Or if you could just say hello in the comments, that would be really great.
Yeah, if anybody can type into the comments and let us know who you are and where you're from, then that would help us as well, so we can chat. That would be great. Yeah, it's not showing on here who's on. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so I'm going to hand over to Alicia, who's going to do the welcome statement.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Trudy, and welcome, beautiful souls, to our first, as you know, our Multidimensional Monday. And as Trudy shared before, that we are so excited to be here. And if you're connecting with us for the first time, my name is Alicia, co-creatrix of Krystalline Ascension, with my mom, Eva. Do you want to wave? And that way they know who you are. And again, with our galactic sister, Trudy, from White Star Soul Guidance. So again, yeah, if you're catching us live on Facebook or here on Zoom with us, just say hello in the comments or the chat, and then we can read it out loud forever we're looking. And a warm welcome to those who are watching us the replay. And if you're watching the replay, if you want to hashtag replay, and then that way we can circle back around later to say hello to you as well.
So we have Jenny Stapleton saying hello, Lillian saying hello from Powassan.
Lovely.
Yeah. So each Monday we will be here live sharing our multidimensional experiences, stories, and earthly musings of living as a multidimensional being in a human body and how we are bridging the two together. So today's topic will be about our sharings of finding your tribe and living as a multidimensional healer.
So I thought the best way to kind of do this was not to have it too formal, but the way that we do it every day, when the 3 of us met and we started again together, it would be like it was like kind of going to school, but we were the teachers of ourselves, and we'd sit down and go, oh, I've got this question I've never got answered. And we sit down and put our 3 minds together and then get some answers. So we're kind of doing that today. I'm going to go through and pose some questions, and the 3 of us are going to give our different answers. And they're going to be from 3 different perspectives. So it's not the same answer because we see things quite differently. So the first thing I thought would be good to share is, how did we discover that we were healers? The multidimensional bit we'll talk about a bit later, but healers, how did we discover that we were healers? Because a lot of us are healers, many of us are healers, and we don't even realize it because nobody gets taught any of this stuff in school. We don't get taught about energy or how to use it, and yet subconsciously we're all doing this every day. So I thought if you understood where we came from, because it wasn't like we woke up one day and said, yay, we're healers, or we went to a course and learned to be a healer. It doesn't have to be that way. It can just be naturally occurring. And that's what I wanted to show through this question. So for me, if I start, and then I'll hand over to Alicia. So for me, I didn't know I was a healer. I just had somebody tell me, literally. I was in a computing job and I was in the office, and a Reiki lady turned up, bizarrely, in a computing office, the most strangest combination of events. And she sat me down and said, do you realize that you have abilities? And I was like, didn't really believe her and didn't really think much of it at the time. But turned out that she was right, and it became my path without even realizing it. So for me, I wasn't a child that had visitations or experiences or anything, or at least I didn't think I did. I see it now differently with different eyes, but the original view wasn't that obvious. And it was actually other people telling me and helping kind of nudge me gently onto the healing path. So Alicia, what was it like for you?
I think for myself, I feel that it was more of that deep inner knowingness. And for myself, it actually did come very natural because I always had a very deep interest in energy growing up, and our household was filled with my mom sharing her multidimensional side or her energetic side. So it was a very fun to very play in the unseen field. It was very well known for us. You know, mom had created meditations, recordings in the hallway, and different kind of stuff that we had to look forward to, and crystals in the house and books all about multidimensional stuff or energetic stuff. So as I look back on my life, I'm now aware of how much I was always healing or assisting others in the ethers without even knowing I was. It wasn't until the later part of my probably only a couple of years ago where I look back and I can actually see and pinpoint and interconnect that I was actually healing others at that time. And, you know, so that's how it went for me.
Eva?
Okay, I believe it started at the birth of my children, and it just showed itself in increments. For example, like if they had a bellyache, I was drawn to hold energy of a yellow ball on their belly. And if they weren't well, I used to tuck them in. I had this one favorite soft white blanket that I would tuck them in with. And to me, that would be the healing. Or I asked them to look at a cloud, like imagine a cloud in their heads, and you know, just put that white cloud above them and let it flow by them. So I really didn't know what I was doing at that time, right? It was just,
but where did that come from? Like what gave you those concepts to actually do that?
I guess that was my intuition, right? It was just something that came naturally for me. Like, I mean, my mother also was never one with, you know, take us to the doctor or anything. It was all just home remedies.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
you know, like for their eyes, I use chamomile tea. Like they never saw a doctor for an eye infection or an ear infection because it was just all these home remedies or whatever I felt like what I was doing. So it came, like I said, in increments, naturally. Even my books, you know, I love to read about psychic surgery, like getting my hands in the body psychically and just reconstruct it. So
Wow.
yeah, so it just like, and it just evolved as the years went by.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have a comment here from Zoom saying it's like kissing a bruise that moms famously do. That's so true. Yeah, all makes it all better.
Yes.
And definitely, you know, we do some of this stuff, but I think my mum did have some healing abilities too. She was known for taking wedding rings and rubbing them up and down people's hands to predict the sex of the baby.
Right, yeah.
So I think we probably have more stories like this. And for everybody here listening, they'll probably find they've got stories like this.
Right.
Just check everybody's cameras and videos are off as people are joining. So I think what we're sort of saying by sharing this is look at your own lives and you'll probably find that you have very similar stories too.
Yeah.
And I think in the next question, we actually asked about our multidimensional abilities. But yeah, for me, I think I found that people used to feel calm around me. So mine wasn't an obvious thing. It was just that people liked to be near me. My mum jokes and said she asked me like questions like when I was 9 and I would answer questions like an adult. I don't remember this. So I'm guessing that's kind of how it was coming through for me, was that I was able to kind of explain things, even at a 9-year-old.
Younger.
But how does that sound to you guys? Have any of you got any stories that kind of relate, that can show your multidimensional healing abilities?
In the Zoom comments, one had said, so cool, wish I had that growing up. We have a little heart. Let me see if I can see that. It's a little bit. Mine was the mustard plaster and slice an onion and rub the bottoms of your feet. Okay, so a home remedy. Yeah. That your mom used to do.
Well, I think many of us kind of used to use home remedies, but the cloud, visualizing a cloud and the blanket being an energy healing is like, especially at that point in time, that would have been back when it wasn't that known or not as integrated into our everyday for sure. And I think
Right.
that's what we're finding when we talk, is that, yeah, we are a bit strange doing things that normal people don't, but it was integrated. That's the key thing for us, isn't it?
Mhm.
So I'm just checking on Zoom. There's nothing, sorry, on Facebook. There's nothing going on there at the moment. So let's move on to the next question. Has anybody else got any questions? Remember, on Facebook, it takes 20 seconds. We'll circle back around if anyone does. So the next one was then, how did we become aware that we were multidimensional? And let me just put that a little bit into context about what multidimensional means. It's only a term that I've recently been willing to accept, but it's not just about whether you're a starseed or whether you're galactic in nature. It's simply almost like having your finger in many pies. I'm a dancer, I'm a computer programmer, I'm a healer, I love art, and if somebody said to me, like, the way it shows up for me, the most obvious is archetype tests. If I did an archetype test, I never fall in one archetype. I'm like 30, 30, 40. It's always like, I can't ever fit into one box. And I like that. And I think, you know, if you're in school and you've got that personality, it's really hard when it comes to exams to have to pinpoint what you need to do. But also in multidimensional, in this particular question, we're also talking about how do we become more of the cosmic galactic side of what we do. So my answer was that it started off with ME. I got sick after my computer company and I got burnt out. So I started doing kinesiology and healing sessions to try and get my soul put back together after the burnout. And the funny thing started happening was that we would sit down and say, okay, so what does my body need to heal? And we would visit a planet that I wouldn't even know. I'd have to go and look it up. And there would be a being with a message for me. And I'd be sitting there going, but maybe, what has this got to do with me? Like, why is that my health? Why is my health dependent on this galactic information? So for a long time, I thought it was a negative thing, and I started pushing it away and burying it. But eventually it was so dominant that these messages were coming in all the time that I had to finally accept that maybe there was something to learn from this. And I'm very pragmatic. So when something like this happens, I can't just accept that it's galactic or angelic, or I need to know why. So I just started transferring it into metaphors, and I found a lot of value even at that level. But when I started looking at it from energetic frequencies, it actually took it to another level for me, and seeing it as energy. And energy, I do understand, like quantum physics, you know, we all got that definition of that. So it's like very scientific, and that I could relate to. So for me, it was my belief reprogramming that ended up bringing that information in for me. And that's how I first realized. And then in 2020, I finally decided that I needed to come out of the closet and embrace that side of me. I dyed my hair purple to help with the embodiment of this galacticness. And then luckily, a year later, I met Alicia and Eva and found I wasn't so alone. And actually, some of the things I'm seeing, they saw too. So Alicia, how is this for you then? How did you first realize you had galactic friends and messages?
Oh, wow. I think for myself, that would be really, really hard to pinpoint that. But when I truly felt the connection of others having that multidimensional skill as myself, is the one that stands out the most to me is when I reawakened my light language. And if you're unsure what light language is, it's just a language of frequency. I call it the language of your heart. And it's a very deep understanding. And what was being spoken when I initiated that or reawakened that in this lifetime is I understood what others were speaking, and I understood or understood what I was speaking on a deep soul level. And you would be able to have, I was having these conversations of either tears or laughter, or you're just understanding each other on a deep soul level. It's just like when someone speaks light language to me face to face, everything around me goes very, very silent, and I'm just zoning in on the language, and I just can't explain it. It brings you to a whole other dimension, if that makes sense. And then I started to using this light language as a daily medicine to do my releasing, aligning and activating, or even just speaking my truth and expressing the frequencies that needed to be spoken in our physical reality. And that's when I brought it into working with soul clients as well, and seeing that this is a multidimensional skill or ability. And that was the one that most stood out to me, I think, at that time, to show that I can work with the unseen and the seen realms.
But did you find, like, for me, that would be like my worst nightmare. And I joke and say, if I ever start speaking light language, I don't think I can rationalize that. My logical brain would just explode. But how, did you not find that kind of like, did you worry at first, like what it meant or how it appeared to other people? Or did you like think, oh, this is really fun and playful and yeah, I love this?
Yeah, I think when I reawakened it, I was at a ceremony and we were doing some holotropic breathing. So that was new to me as well. So I had just spoken light language in that kind of state of consciousness. And it was my roommate beside me had said after the fact, she goes, you know, I heard you speaking light language. And I was like, oh, like, is that, you know, like that's what it felt like. It was such a really excitement, joy. It was kind of like that homecoming for me. It was really, really special. And she had, so told me that you don't need that holotropic breathing. You can just activate it naturally. So, and I actually did very quickly. And it was so much fun that when I had come home, because this was all in Arizona, when I had come home and my kids picked me up, I was so debating on just only speaking to them in light language, just to think how much of a galactic change I've had since coming back here and surprise them. But it was kind of like they had loved it. We've embraced it. We're cosmic family. So it was very easy for me to take this on of an exciting and playful level versus a fearful level, I guess. So they made it really easy for me and wanting to learn how to speak light language themselves. And we had so much fun playing that evening. And I'm activating their light language as well. And it's such a young age. So,
Oh, excellent. I think, you know, if I'd taken that into the boardroom when I was in my computing, I think that would have been like the final one. Although, you know, who knows, computer language, so when you hear a computer speaking, it's light language, isn't it? Beep, beep, beep. But I think they would have thought I was crazy. But I think that's my issue, is that computing kind of persona. I just want to say hello to Sue. Sue's watching us, Sue Coulson. She's on the live and just said hello. And I think Jim is there as well. And I think I saw him in Thatcham the other day. I didn't like to tap him on the shoulder, but he doesn't know I saw him from behind. So Eva, what's your answer then?
Well, when for me, it was when I first accepted the Akashic record. I was drawn very boldly to the message of bringing harmony and connection from the spiritual world to the physical. I was always about heaven on earth. For some reason, it was always about heaven on earth with me, but I really feel like I'm only beginning to start understanding what heaven on earth really means. Like this is like over a 10-year trip, because I know at the beginning of the Akashic records, I was totally resistant to it. Like I just was like, no, this isn't for me. I was in total denial to move towards the Akashic records. And it is when I stepped out of my ego and I really let myself connect that I was able to do that. And one of the things with the Akashic records that really, really pulled me in is when they told me, Eva, if you change your energies and you're going to be changing your ancestrals and you're going to change your life for the kids. And I didn't want my kids to go through what I went through. So that was the pull-in for me. Like if I could release anything from myself that would help my daughters or my generation moving forward, that was it for me. That's
actually an amazing thing, because I think, like for me, would I have stepped into spirituality if I hadn't been sick? Probably not. It's almost like we need that pull, that reason to be brave enough to go into this and explore it. And it's such a shame, because actually once you're in there, it can be like very playful and fun, and it taps into that creative part of us that we don't use enough anymore. So yeah, that's brilliant. That is really brilliant.
Yeah, there's Zoom comments from before. So understand, well said. Love it. When my own light language comes out, I feel so exhilarated, especially during sessions with my clients. Yes, yes. And I have been in my Akashic records, yet it's like the message is on mute because I'm still not in the right frequency of receiving.
I might have had one light language moment last week. It scared me. So I don't want to share that one. I was like, what was that? But I do know that, yeah, when you spoke light language, it makes me cry, and that confuses me too.
From the heart.
I still don't have the answer for that one yet. Yeah. I've got Kelly saying hello off of Facebook. So we can say hello to Kelly. She's watching. And if we're okay to move on to the next question, we're just going to share then what it's like when we're actually in healing mode. So after being told by numerous people that I would become a healer, and I think I found an old tape that went back to like 2002, and they said, you were going to invent a new form of healing. And at the time I was like, I don't even know what these forms are now. How am I supposed to know what a new form is? But I have always kind of like been cherry picking then the healing that I do. I've never done courses as such, but it, like you, Eva, it was kind of coming naturally and as organically through the work that I was doing on myself, I guess. That's the best way to learn. The more you spend healing yourself, the more you learn what techniques work, what don't work, and then you can apply them. And at first, I think I was trying to be too logical about it, as you can imagine, with my brain. And then again, it's that letting go and trusting feeling. And once you get to that point, you just get this really, it's kind of hard because it's not tangible. You can't see or feel what you're seeing. And yet you have to turn it into a language, which isn't built for explaining that kind of experience. And I was reading something recently that said our language is based on commerce. The English language is all based around commerce and exchanges at that level. So then for us to take that language and explain it in a much more spiritual sense, it doesn't fit. And yet our spiritual languages like the Bible and all these other texts are where we will find the words. And it's been very much that for me. The more I read other people's, especially cards, oracle cards, the more I read other people's oracle cards, it's like, oh, that's what they call that, or this is the word for that. And that's how I've been building my description up. But I think I couldn't actually see or visualize anything at first. And it wasn't until a friend of mine who I was having some healing with told me that maybe I was clairsentient, and to sense into it first, I suddenly had this big epiphany, and it was like, whoa. And the funny thing is then, as soon as I felt like, what could I feel, and looked at that, I would get like perfectly formed images in my face, like complete Technicolor TV, suddenly bounce up in front of me. And I remember kind of like jumping back when it first happened. So it's a mixture of that, but more often than not, it's a feeling, words, symbols, and it's all symbology, a lot of symbology for me. And then I have to kind of put it together and join the dots to make sense of it all. So it kind of feels like some days it's a bit misty and some days a bit clearer, but it depends. But it just shows that with work and practice, you can all build these skills up, because I've been teaching people that are like completely new to this. And I'm amazed at how simple it is for people to go into this once they know these key things. So Alicia, what was it like for you when you're healing?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question to begin with, because I've never really been asked this, and I already struggle myself using human words to express myself and my experiences. But when you had said, I definitely resonate with everything that you've said, and you being clairsentient, I can resonate with that. But my strongest one is claircognient. So I just work on a different level. So I do know that I have to be fully centered within my heart. And I also have to forget about myself, that Alicia, and just zone out of my physical surroundings in some sort of way. And also I'm very empathic. So with that, again, that deep sense of inner knowingness. And the best way to describe it is that I can step into the consciousness of my heart and feel my way through the ethers and know or feel what the other soul is feeling or experiencing. And I can communicate with that unseen energy, those certain codings, that frequency, that architecture, or even that soul technology that comes in. And a lot of times with interdimensional beings. So I feel it's that some sort of way of that advanced telepathic communication in my own way, but I'm using multiple human senses, and I'm also using galactic ones as I navigate those new rhythms of those different dimensions. And I've even read in a book that I found very interesting from a beautiful shaman known as the Great Lion Priest of Africa. And he shares that the human being possesses 12 senses. So myself, I'm really excited to awaken these in the human form.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But definitely.
Can't even imagine what 12 would be like, but that's fantastic. Yeah. Huh. See, look, we get together every week and we have conversations all the time. And I didn't know that. That's new to me. That's the first time I've heard you say this. It's like, it's always like, oh, wow, now I want to know more about that. So, Eva?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel what one calls is to step out of the ego. And once I step out of the ego, it allows me to connect to the quantum database to receive etheric support to my human clients. I receive first through vision and secondary through auditory messages. I also resonate with so much soul technology flowing down from the heavens to support one in a session. And for me, I seem to be always using my hands. I'm always weaving this into the blueprint of a client, or when I'm visualizing it, I like to, I weave into their organs or into their cells or into their blood, and the overall energy is unconditional love. Like when I know all of us, when we're healing a client, it's just so much love coming from our heart space as we connect to the one that we're serving, right? It's like soul to soul, we're oneness, and it's just the most blissful experience that I could ever imagine, is just to be pure and helping another soul through the healing process, and knowing that they're healing, they're the healers, but we're just the conduit and we're supporting them like that.
Oh, that's so cool. Funny thing is, I used to wake up in the middle of the night and my hands were doing all this, and I was like, what's going on? So yeah, I think I have a bit of that in me as well. And yeah, that's really interesting.
Definitely. There's comments here in the Zoom. I wonder if human design will help understand why certain aspects are frightening, exhilarating, and emotional swings.
Human design, we've been looking into that recently because I like lots of different archetype studies. So from what I've seen, there is a quantum human design, which does do a bit more on the quantum level. But it's like anything, because it's based on astrology and the date you were born. I know there's an I Ching element as well, but because it's bought on the day you were born, that's almost like the thing you started life with. And then you obviously grow, or hopefully we grow and we evolve as we go. So therefore, it's not going to be an exact match all of our lives. Things are going to get stronger, things are going to fall away. So it's kind of like, I guess it depends on where you are on your soul path as to whether it takes time to integrate those or not. And then I don't even know if I Ching allows for galacticness, and some of our, we got lots of past lives on and other systems and other forms in quite complicated forms that are not necessarily astrologically matching up right now. But yeah, I don't know. Be interesting to see as we learn more about the quantum human design, how it does fit in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And someone was asking about that book where I got that, where I read that, and I just want to share. Then I shared it in Zoom, but it was called "The Mystery of the White Lions, Children of the Sun God" by Linda Tucker. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, we've already used up half an hour.
Yeah.
And we haven't even got onto the tribe bit yet. So if you guys don't mind hanging on a little longer, we can carry on sharing if you're enjoying what we're sharing. But let us know in the comments if you want us to continue. So we were just going to talk about what it meant for us as finding us as a tribe. And then a little bit about our different levels of healing that we do. So let's see, is everybody staying with us? We can carry on, yeah? Alicia, Eva, are you okay to carry on?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we'll carry on then, and hopefully you guys will stay with us. So the next question was about how we found each other and what it meant to us to find each other. So funny enough, Sue was like my first cosmic lady. She was like the first tentative step into multidimensional, and I found her, and she's does the cosmic classroom down in Avebury. So it was like a perfect place to go and learn some of this stuff. And then from that, I got a bit braver and bolder, and then I met Alicia and Eva. But for me, what it felt like was, it felt like a child in a candy shop. I could ask all the questions I couldn't ask before. And we'd say we'd meet for an hour, but it never was an hour. It would be like, this led to this, led to this. And it was kind of like, I'd say, like, I kept seeing Noah's Ark. Like, I've been told about the flood, it's been coming up. And then Eva would say, oh, yes, I've seen the Ark, and it means this to me. And Alicia would say, yes, I've seen that too. And by the time we'd finished, we'd have this, you know, like you were finally fed. It was like we'd been given all these little scraps of information and we didn't know what to do with them all. And all three of us had got these books with them all written in that we're still trying to put together. And then suddenly it was like, they were all fitting together like a big puzzle, all fitting together. And I just felt satisfied knowing finally what it all meant. But also what I noticed was that my skills as a multidimensional healer it was exponential. It wasn't even like a slow. It was almost like when the three of us got together, because we use a lot of technology in our healings, so it might not be the normal kind of form, but as a computing person, once I realized I could use tech in my healings, I was like, this is the final puzzle piece for me coming together. You know, I understand technology, I understand programming, so now I can use that language to help me with my healing. And it just felt like it all fitted together perfectly. And it went from feeling lonely and kind of like not sure anybody understood me, or feeling sometimes even crazy, to suddenly having these amazing deep dive conversations on the meaning of the universe, and just feeling kind of like full for the whole week afterwards. So it was very, yeah, my sanity definitely appreciated meeting you guys. And it makes you feel seen and understood. And that's the whole point. When we're multidimensional healers, or even just multidimensional unknown people that haven't come into that side of themselves yet, they're just sensitives. When you really do find your tribe, you just feel really seen, heard, and understood and acknowledged. And that feeling's worth its weight in gold, personally. That's what I think the meaning of life and connection is that's got to be the gold for me.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, that's beautifully said. And that feeling is definitely mutual. It definitely felt divinely synced by our higher selves when we had first met. That's how magical it felt. So when the three of us came together, it immediately felt like we were that puzzle waiting to be completed. And we continuously all the time, like Trudy said, we surprise ourselves with how aligned we are, syncing up with our human experiences as well as our galactic ones. And it feels very exciting, and at the same time very natural, like we've known each other forever, which we have. But in remembrance here in the human form, that we have been here forever together, but where we can complete each other's thoughts, feelings, or sentences, and just flowing as one and understanding our separate roles, yet they're blended to witness the magic that appears when we combine them as one, and when we're working in unity. And that's where I feel that we have a strong suit in working in that unified field very well. So it's like we are on that same energetic wave, and we have that infinite authentic giving and receiving type flow, and hold similar frequencies with similar missions and purposes and intentions. So I'm just reading the comments here coming up on the Zoom. Loving your energy and all the expansive chat. Does either of you spend time exploring in your light body through either out-of-body experiences or astral travel? It feels great knowing we're not alone with our abilities. Also, being like-minded individuals is so soothing to the soul. Yeah, it is.
Because I think there was times like where we were shy with each other, even, weren't we? It's like we didn't want to. There were still parts, even though we were like all claiming to be multidimensional and like expressing that, we still all felt a little bit withdrawn on expressing it, which is really funny, because you kind of see something really weird and you go, should I mention it to the others, or they're going to think I'm strange? And there's three of us that are all like that. And it just shows how that restriction on us is so tight in our society that we couldn't even completely open up at first with each other, even though we'd committed to do that with each other. So yeah, that was really an amazing experience.
Yeah.
So how about you, Eva?
Yeah, I love the love vibrations that are going on right now. And that is how I feel when the three of us are together. Yeah, like it took so many years of soul searching and the universe to orchestrate introducing us to each other. It is one heart of divine communication and total collaboration. Like we are just like, when we get together, like we become one, right? There's no separation. And we, like Alicia said, and Trudy, you also mentioned the puzzle. And what we do so succinctly is hold space for the planet and assist in bringing in many pieces of the puzzle that have been dismantled, right? In finding each other, we are finding new ways to support the planetary ascension. So like it's a God-given blessings that we persevered, and at the end of the program that we actually got together, and here we are now.
Yeah, no, it was divine sync, like you say.
Yeah.
Because, the questions that we ask every time we meet up is like, well, what is 5D, and why is 5D different to other Ds, and what is the new Earth going to be? And then we get 3 different answers from the different specialties that we have in seeing. And that just builds the picture up. And each time it just gets more and more detailed. And I must admit, sometimes it's like unreal when we sit there with our 3 pieces and they fit so perfectly. It's like, you kind of want to shake yourself, like, is this real? Can we be that synced on a brain wave level that this can actually happen? And it's definitely the highlight of the year, I think. But the interesting thing is, when we got together, we weren't sure how the 3 of us were going to work together. So we didn't sit down and kind of orchestrate it. I think we just said, what are we going to do? I don't know. How's this going to work? I don't know. What should we do? Should we just start and see? And then it just went clink, 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 clink. And we're all looking at each other going, whoa. And in a way, I don't know about you guys, but in a way, I'm a bit frightened every time we join up in case we don't get the clink, 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 clink. And like, what do we do then? But it hasn't done that. It's just always been that kind of progression nicely in place. So, yeah.
Agree.
So what have you guys got takeaways from that? Like, how would it mean for you guys to find your tribe? What would it make you feel like? Oh, got a message from Kelly saying, I just love how you're keeping the cosmic multidimensionality conversation so down to earth and authentic. You're all incredible. Thank you, Kelly. Love you too. Anybody else? Because I think that's one of my skills. And when we talk about what we do individually is that groundedness, because for me, everything has to be grounded down and explained. So it's really interesting how the three work together. Mm-hmm. Any other takeaways? Any other questions you guys might ask us about any of this? Okay, I know it's going to take 20 seconds on Facebook, so I'll come back round. I'm keeping an eye on it. So the next question I had was, this is kind of emphasizing the way we heal. So we've all agreed that we're basically in healing mode all the time. So, over the next few weeks, we'll explain more about how this is, but we cannot have a normal conversation with a stranger. It is always a healing. And I think that's how many of us healers are. If you come across a healer, you'll know it because you'll just come away feeling better, even if they don't know they're a healer. And we all have that ability, like I said before. So some of us are just more in tune with it, or at least subconsciously working with it. And it's just important if you do have friends that are making you feel that way to appreciate that, because it is a really important skill set. It's not all about what we say and do, but sometimes it's that space that we hold and emanate that is important as well. So I guess most people think of healers as somebody you go to when you've got an issue and you need some help. However, there is a group of people doing planetary healing as well. And this question is about like the difference then for each of us on our personal healing, our planetary healing, and how we got healing for others. So I just wanted to kind of touch on it quickly here, and we can always come back around on another Monday to share more. But for me, it started obviously with my ME, so my personal healing. That's how I did, like, I've probably done hundreds and hundreds of soul journeys to past lives, future lives, parallel lives, different dimensions, just in my own healing. And it's through that I learned a lot of what I understand as the techniques that I've learned, basically. And it was trial and error, things that worked for me, then I assumed other people like me could also benefit too. But then randomly, every so often, I'd get a healing on myself that would suddenly say, Trudy, you need to go up and sew together the golden grids around the planet. And you'd be like, why? Because somebody's stolen all the gold from it. It's really important to put it back. And it's like, okay, so you go up, and that's when I started doing the kind of weaving and doing it, and then kind of going, and then you sort of sit there and think, did that actually do anything? I don't know, because I didn't know anybody else doing that work at the time. I think the biggest thing for me was in 2020, I was standing down by the lake with a friend, and we were bringing in truth. We were trying to bring, I know it's probably the worst thing. I thought I'd caused the pandemic at this point. We were trying to bring in the truth and spread it around the earth for divine truth. And I had my drum, and the drum started getting louder and louder, and the water and the fish were jumping, and I was starting to get like spooking myself. And then this big, in this sort of the aeroplane lines across in the sky created a big star above our heads. And I remember looking up going, okay, that's a bit different. And again, it was that part of that kind of connecting more to the power of the planet and what we can do. So planetary kind of was intermittent between there, and I just did it because I was told to do it and didn't know if I was doing it right. And then it took me a long time then to turn those into actually working for other people. It wasn't like on my list to become a healer first. Those first two things happened, and then it was more a matter of, if I want to find my tribe, then I need to be more authentically me. I am a healer. The more I therefore stand in those shoes and become that person, then surely then I'll find more people like me. And obviously it worked because I met people like Sue and Alicia and Eva. So being yourself has benefits, even if it does seem like you're on the outskirts and an outcast and not sure who you are. So how about you, Alicia? How did it work for you?
Yeah, I do feel unconsciously, I was definitely healing. I felt healing others first and assisting on a collective level for the planetary. But when I think back to consciously, then that's when I began to heal myself first, then outskirting to support others, such as my children and family members, which extended to aligned clients, and then to the planet. Just, I feel that each one overlaps the other as we're all connected. We're all connected in some way or form. So we do pick up on each other's healing, alignment, or releasing. And I do feel that they are slightly different, yet the same in a way. An example I would give was when I'm healing myself, I find it so much more challenging as the human mind steps in. And that's when I need to surrender to my heart. And just for an example, today, before we got together, I was dizzy all day, but my dizziness stopped after we did the healing, which I had a little bit of the piece, Trudy had a little bit of the piece, and then my mom had a little bit of the piece. And then when we're all working together, we're able to kind of see what energy was going on and what I was actually experiencing. So if when I was working alone, I did feel like that took so much more longer. It would have, I would have been able to do it, but just this happens so much more easier and effortlessly. And it's kind of like, wow, it's done, it's complete, it's all grounded in. And that's what I'm looking for, it to be grounded into what's going on. But when healing others, I do find that I hold them in that sacred space that I would for myself, with always that purest intentions for their highest good. And then when I'm healing the planet, it feels exactly the same. It just feels much more on a bigger space that I'm holding, energetically speaking, which I also find very easy to do. And that may not be the case for others, but I do find that what I can hold space for myself, it's so easy to hold that space for the planet as well.
And it's so needed as well. Yeah. Cool.
All right. For myself, personal healing came to me at the beginning. While I was healing myself, I was, called to different mentors, coaches, modalities, started showing up. And so then I started practicing with others. And recently, just basically in the last 18 months, I consciously started planetary and cosmic healing in a collaborative fashion. And I feel that sometimes the planetary and humanitarian healings come the most easiest to me, because you're doing it on such a large scale, and just the frequency, the vibration, the downloads seem to come so, when we're working together, right? It comes quite easily and effortlessly to us, and we take an issue and we negotiate with the cosmics, and we're in the ethers doing all this, you can't even dream this stuff up work, but it's so satisfying. Like, it's so fulfilling to know how much we are actually supporting the planetary and the humanitarian works in our lives right now. Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it still gives us insights beyond what we might expect, because we were recently doing some money abundance stuff, and it took us to an island off the Gold Coast of America, which turns out to be where the Federal Reserve was signed. And we didn't know that. It's just where our journeys took us. So it's so powerful what we've been seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, to just emphasize again, is just because we're doing planetary thing, it's not something special. We can all do planetary work by how we walk down the street, when we notice the energies are misaligned in our streets or in our parks. There's so many things we can all be doing, and it's just, again, just education. It's not complicated. It's about sensing and switching your senses on, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's carrying the essence within us as we walk about amongst everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Sue saying, thank you all for beautiful sharing. It's wonderful to hear your personal stories, as I know how important it is for others to hear. Thank you, Sue. That's exactly what we were doing this for, because I think I would have benefited from having heard stories like this, not just from the esoteric kind of the galactic sense, but this much more down to earth version, because that would have made me feel less of an outcast, I guess. So that's why we decided we would do this.
And there's comments in the Zoom too. Hey, beautiful souls, what is some of your favorite ways to get grounded after spending time in other dimensions? Oh, that's a really great question, because I do feel for myself that I can float up very, very easily. And it's only been over the past maybe couple of years that I've actually been able to actually learn how to ground myself versus just floating up there, not understanding why I feel this way. And I used to result in going outside, going barefoot, getting grounded, doing some breathing techniques, but I think that's evolved before, like evolved even more, that wasn't always the grounding way to do something like that. And I realize now it's a little bit more of the human architecture within us that might not being able to allow us to ground in that light inside of us. And but I do feel that in the very beginning, when I was learning how to pull myself back into my physical body, I was taught to breathe into my spine and count my spinal cord 1 to 33 all the way up and breathe into every single one. And that really helped me become very grounded very quickly in my human body, because before I did feel a little bit scared to be in my human body after that.
Yeah, I definitely was preferred out of my body than in. Dancing is good for me. That brings me back in. And I found that since I've been going in through the heart to the quantum space, I now feel like I'm not leaving my body when I'm doing it. But for sure, the architectures that we've been putting in place for ourselves has made a huge difference for how I stay. And now I can, it depends on what we're doing, but most of the times I don't feel as floaty as I used to doing that kind of work, because it feels like, you know, it's like what Eva said, we're trying to put heaven in earth. And that means bringing that spiritual down into our physical body. And a lot of the work we do has that embodiment aspect as well, where we've kind of go from that spiritual soul right down into the physical body. And we practice that ourselves.
And for me, like that was almost my first mission that I had to learn, was to come back into my body, because I loved being out there. I did not want to be in here whatsoever. And so basically that was what I was taught, first of all, is always just to bring it down here. So they always used to say, if there's a string right in you're out there, is just to bring it yourself down and bring yourself, just your thoughts into your heart. And me, I do a lot of holding my hands on my heart, because that keeps me grounded. That keeps me in my place, so that I'm not always out there. So I could share from a 3D experience from a spiritual perspective.
Excellent. There's another question there, but before we do that, if we just finish our next question, and we'll come back to that one. So we got a message from Kelly saying she could listen to us all day. Just love this conversation. Need to head off. We'll catch up on the replay. So catch you later, Kelly. Let me see where we're at. Yeah, because there's only the last section left now. So before we go into self-care, I guess it's quite important for us to say what our specialties are, because our spiritual self-care, I think, is going to be based on our unique frequency and what we do. And I tend to work more with soul lessons and soul talents and soul vision. And part of that is us connecting to our unique frequency. So when the three of us got together, it was important for me to just more for like comparison. Like I said, I'm an analytical. So it's like, so if that's true, then what's this? And if this isn't true, then what is that? My brain is always working like this. So it'd be no surprise to you to know that I'm actually a seeker of divine intelligence, which would make sense. I did computing as artificial intelligence. I've got the logical brain for the programming, and it kind of accidentally fell into that when we worked together. So it was kind of like I use body testing as my, when I'm struggling to kind of see the images because I need it to be precise, I use body testing to ask questions more and learn more about the thing I'm seeing, so I can get detailed on it, which then gives me a perfect example of then how to fix it, because we had a really interesting time. We found something called the Rumpelstiltskin problem solving technique, or at least it was a principle, and it's actually used in computing as well. But it's about when something is named, you can't perceive it the same again. And we've been applying that we've been making sure that we name the things that we're working with, so that we can give a much more accurate frequency and correction and upgrade to it by the nature of us naming it. So a seeker of divine intelligence, I'm kind of about the questioning, the asking, the connection between things, but also the insights that I get, I suppose, are informational based. So like I'll get like, all right, I'm seeing this image, what's that going to do with it? Or what are we going to do with that? So it's very much an information flow. I take the information in, and then I hand it over to Alicia.
Yes, where I feel that I'm seeking the divine architecture, whether it be maybe a seed or a template or a kind of like that blueprint that needs to come in order for us to bring that into the human body. So whether it be an architecture that you may need to release from your human architecture that I see, or one that you have to bring in order to be able to hold that light, in order to be able to release something, in order to be able to ground something. So I'm very much more so into seeing the different kind of codings, the geometric shapes, the sounds, the different frequencies, and sometimes it comes through the light language in order to whether it be create that architecture or integrate that architecture into Eva's weaving. However, I do really enjoy kind of taking part of that blueprint and restructuring us and for alignments and activations. So that's basically what I do.
And then Eva joins us and she adds her level into it.
Yes, and I'm the seeker of encryption. So what I take is once the knowledge is there, information is there, and then the seeds are there, then I take it and together, we work all this together. We take this and we weave it in, and it could be through a sequence, like what do we have to weave in first? What do we have to weave in second? And sometimes it's geometrical codes that are coming, or the colors that are coming, or, you know, we never know. That's what it is, but I am the weaver of
The cosmic intelligence.
Yeah, you kind of put us all together and kind of,
Yeah.
it's like she kind of finishes us. But, you know, we all obviously cross over. But I think the point is that I wanted people to understand is that we all have a kind of like a quantum 5D mission. And that can be holding space. Like if your frequency is happiness, then like one of the girls on here now, she can hold really amazing amounts of happiness energy and she can spread that. And that's a quantum mission. It doesn't have to be that we're going to all save the world or come up with the solutions to global warming. It's through the small, tiny acts of the frequencies and energies that we can hold that we can then grow. But in order for us to hold them, just like we've been doing, we've had to go through some core wounds to remove them in order for us to hold more energy. And the three of us just seem to have three different angles. And I think once I learned about Alicia's architectures, it just gave me another layer to start searching then for the things that I could never anchor in before, that things that wouldn't stick, that kept kind of floating away. And then by the time Eva and Alicia put that information in properly, it just anchored in much more strongly. Yeah. So do any of you guys, there's Jenny saying, yay, that's me. Yes, she's the goddess of happiness. So this is where I ask, what's your goddess challenge? What is your goddess frequency or your God frequency? What is, if somebody comes to you and asks you questions, is there like a pattern that you've noticed? Or when you're at work, do you notice that there's a pattern to what you do? So if you guys want to share what your unique frequency might be, then that would be great to see. I'm just going to check in on Facebook quickly. No, that's quiet at the moment. So we've got a few people still on the Facebook watching us. So they have stuck with us, luckily, because we're going to come to a close too. So it takes about 20 seconds for them to answer on Facebook if they're going to give us their goddess and God frequencies, what we got here on Zoom. Anybody brave enough to share what they think what their frequency is? And don't forget, the frequency doesn't have to be, it could be just an emotional state that you hold, or it could even be a space holder for trees. It could be anything. You'd be surprised how, when you finally start asking yourself that question, how these answers reveal themselves to you.
It's, yeah, and I find it's the one that always keeps coming back to you that you push away.
Yeah, exactly. It's the one that doesn't make sense, so it can't be that. Let's push that away. Yeah.
I find that for the divine architecture, every time that I was able to see it through, even taking pictures of the sun and seeing the architecture come through, and I would just so love it and enjoy it, but I would be like, no, I'm not the one that does divine architecture in the human self. No, no, no. And the more I pushed it away, the more stronger it came to me. So
yeah, and my argument was like, but I'm computing. How can I be spiritual? I'm computing. I don't get it. And now the two fit together so perfectly. It's kind of like unbelievable. Yeah. And even your job, Eva, your 3D job matched up to your 5D work, no?
Right. Yeah, with the encryption, with working in the medical setting of well, I loved it. Like I did TikTok typing, and that's where I fell in love with the body even more. And then I was able to visualize more weaving in, more healing of the body. So it also, you know, it all meshed together.
Yeah, you were translating the doctor's scribbled notes though into the computer for others to read. So
Yes,
you were
yeah.
already weaving that in for others to integrate.
Yeah, no, when the three of us started looking at our unique frequency and then we saw our jobs, it was kind of like a face slap moment. It's like, duh. It's kind of a little bit obvious now.
Yeah.
Anybody else sharing what theirs is? I've got Sue. Her gift is to see into the heart of others and help them see themselves more clearly. Yeah, she's got a beautiful, loving energy, a reflector like the moon. That's
Beautiful.
beautiful.
And one comment on Zoom, frequency would probably be an empath.
Do you know if I know Prashwali, so this is animals, no? Yours is even more precise than just an empath. You're an animal communicator.
Beautiful.
Anybody else?
Laugh out loud. Yes, that too, she says.
But I think the more you tune in and sort of fine tune that, then yeah, the more you'll start seeing the kind of, it's like this divine plan, isn't it? It's kind of like plotted us there. It might have taken us off on a few kind of like random routes on the way. And we might have thought, like when I went to learn dance, I thought, I'm going to be just teaching dance, not knowing that it was going to be about energy and embodiment and teaching me a new level of that so I could integrate that. So don't underestimate your life experiences. It's almost like your life experiences, your challenges, everything you've been given was plotted precisely to help you remember what your mission was here at this time. So I think we'll call it a close. If anybody's got any other questions to share, that would be great.
There was, what is your suggestions for spiritual self-care?
That's right, yes. Can we carry that one over to next time? Will you join us next week, Callum, and bring that with you? And we'll make that a topic, because I think that's not something we can answer in a few minutes each. That needs a bit longer for us to describe, because like I said, I think everybody's spiritual self-care is going to be unique to them.
Mm-hmm.
And like some people can't be on a computer without feeling stressed, and others need to be in nature. So I think it's something that we can answer our questions and what we do. And maybe you could share yours, Callum, and bring yours with you and tell us what you do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you guys enjoyed what we've been saying. And like I said, we wanted to share this because we want people to wake up to their multidimensionalness. That all those messages you've had in your head or all the things that you thought might not be a coincidence. And we want you to start putting them together as your own jigsaw puzzle and actively start seeking it out. So I'm going to hand over to Alicia.
Yeah. So if you want to keep joining us, we invite you to keep joining us every Monday here through the Facebook Live, or come and join us on Zoom, as it's our intentions that through our sharings that you'll discover your unique frequency and how valuable that truly is. And upcoming, we have a new offering soon called the Stardust Being Human series. It's going to be to a group of conscious souls who are desiring to stop blaming themselves for the accumulation of misaligned energy throughout their multidimensional selves and throughout their lifetimes. So the first one will be called Beating Yourself Up. So just stay tuned with that. But each and every Monday we'll go through some different topics as well.
So if anybody has any topics they would like us to know, then message either myself or Alicia or Eva. You've got all the links, I think, in the event. But hopefully you guys can now follow us. So I'm White Star Soul Guidance, so please click follow. And Alicia.
Yep, we're Krystalline Ascension. And then we're also going to be continuing the conversations in our Facebook group called the Higher Consciousness Living, Stepping Boldly into the Unknown, which we're going to leave a link for that as well.
Do you want to pop that in here, actually, into the Zoom, and then we'll put one into the live after that.
Perfect.
So, yeah. So what we want to do is try and build this tribe up so that we can find more people who want to change the world, little tiny bits at a time, but change the world and create a more connected and more integrated, flowing kind of natural rhythms kind of approach to living.
Yes, as we embrace the multidimensionalities of ourselves.
No, for sure.
Yep.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. So anybody else got anything they want to say as a goodbye?
No, much love to everyone.
So sweet. Thank you so much. Yes.
I thought Eva was going to say something then. I was waiting. I could see her kind of like pause, and I thought, she's going to say something.
I'll come later. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so much for a half an hour. It took us an hour just to go through those questions, but I hope you guys all enjoyed it, and we'll see you all soon.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.